Tonight, a routine spot check turns slimy in Dunedin.
Whereas I do have slime. No, that's slime.
Liquor licence checks get ugly in South Auckland.
That's the one I'm gonna need right now.
And what lies beneath the surface in Upper Hutt.
What is exactly contained in the landfill, we don't know.
In South Auckland, District Licensing Officer Paul Radich and Constable Chris Lally are preparing for a late night ahead. Responsible for monitoring more than 400 bars, the protective vests are essential.
The environment that we're working in, you'd be amazed how many people carry screwdrivers and knives in the back of their pockets, plus they've all got bottles as well, so it's very easy to smash a bottle and have a crack. So it's one of our OSH requirements that we wear every time we're doing night shift. It's uncomfortable as hell.
Tonight, Chris and Paul will be undertaking routine liquor licence inspections. It's their job to ensure appropriate systems are in place to keep patrons safe. With no prior warning, the Smart Bar in Pukekohe won't be prepared for this visit. Although the bar's not based in Paul's normal area of Manukau, he provides support for Chris in what can sometimes become a hostile situation and acts as witness should matters be taken further with the Liquor Licence Authority. Immediately, an intoxicated man comes to their attention, but has he come to the attention of the duty manager?
Why he's in that state if he's not drinking?
He's only just walked in.
Oh, so how did he get in?
I don't know.
But it's your job to know. You're the duty manager.
I can't see everybody, can I?
It's your role to see them. It's not your role to be behind the bar.
A duty manager must maintain a safe, controlled environment at all times.
Your job is to work out there on the floor, making sure people like him don't get in. So you need to sort it.
But just when Chris is making progress with the duty manager, one of the owners decides to join in.
No, it's not my job to point all of the people out. She's the duty manager.
I know, but point them out to us and we'll remove them properly.
Well,
is anyone intoxicated there or not?
yes, they are.
Well, let's remove them, because they're not allowed to be in there. Come on, let's go and remove them.
The owner wants Chris and Paul to identify the drunks, but that's not their job. That falls on the duty manager.
Come on, let's go and remove them.
You're not listening to what I'm saying.
I am
okay?
listening to what you're saying.
Right.
If they're intoxicated, Janice, we'll remove them.
Right, listen to what I'm saying.
Point them out, we'll remove them.
A busy night, the duty manager should not be behind the bar. Their role...
in the States, so she shouldn't work behind the bar.
Their role...
Behind the bar, we've got a view of everyone. He's a duty manager.
To make matters worse, bystanders start getting aggressive.
But she does a fantastic job.
No, you don't need to be here, right? I don't care what you're doing.
Who gives you the right to do this?
Sorry, you're not allowed to touch the camera.
I don't care. Who gives you the right to do what you're doing?
Please step away
Who
from
gives
the
you the right to do
camera.
what you're doing?
Eventually, our security steps in to stop the belligerent woman from assaulting our cameraman.
Don't touch me, eh? I'll have you up for assault if you touch me.
Just don't touch me.
If you touch me, I'll have you up for assault. If you touch me, I'll have you up for assault.
Yeah, just stay away from the camera, please.
Finally, the woman gives up. Paul and Chris leave, having achieved as much as they can here.
Clearly, there are people who are intoxicated in there. They don't want to accept that. So, as a result, we get a licensee arguing with a constable and all the hangers-on joining on, and it just gets completely out of control.
They have a difficult job, getting bar owners and managers to appreciate the law in a hyped-up environment of alcohol, noise and excited people.
I don't see the duty manager's role is to be behind the bar serving drinks. Their role is to run the bar. They're the ones who are responsible for enforcing the Sale of Liquor Act, and that's in legislation. So it all goes back to the duty manager. Now the licensee was just butting in and trying to argue the point. He just didn't understand that, so it's quite a concern, really.
The bar will now face a shake-up or severe penalties could follow. But for now, Chris and Paul must press on to the next unsuspecting bar, and it's one with a dodgy history.
They went through the ringer a couple of years ago now, where the car park was just full of people drinking in the car parks, fights, disorders, stabbings, and team policing, and the whole of the Mangere police were always here on locking up people for breaches of the liquor ban. The way they fixed it was basically to close off that car park and stop people bringing alcohol in, which basically it solved the problem.
But the word's out that unruly nights are happening again at Apia Way, and just like before, a young intoxicated crowd is taking over the car park.
There you go. All good? Who's the manager on tonight? Sorry? Who's the manager on tonight? Do you want to grab it for me?
Guys, you guys have a good time? No, you didn't even if you want to talk to our bouncer, this is our local bouncer.
Waiting for the duty manager, Chris and Paul are accosted by an intoxicated man. It's scenes like this that are sadly becoming more prevalent right across the country.
Do you know the moves? mate?
No, mate, I can't dance.
You're f***ing pommy, mate, that's why. What's up?
This bar has only one doorman to check people going in and control people in the car park. With a number of drunk patrons hanging around, Chris and Paul don't feel safe going in, so they meet the duty manager outside.
How many people have you got up in the bar? Roughly.
300 or 200. As duty manager, she should have a much clearer idea of how many people are in her bar. And let's not forget all the extra people in the car park. The crowd are becoming increasingly hostile. Our cameraman takes a knock from the intoxicated man we encountered at the entrance.
Oi. Mate, you're not impressing anyone, eh?
Back at Apia Way in South Auckland with District Licensing Officer Paul Radich and Constable Chris Lally. A few drunk punters are getting aggro and our cameraman is getting pushed around.
Mate, you're not impressing anyone, eh?
With just 2 officers, if things did blow up here, it could easily turn nasty.
It's getting a bit carried away here. We might get you guys in the car and we'll try again. TP on?
Body, mate. I'll f***ing eat you. I'll eat you, motherfucker. Go. I'll eat you. Right there. Oh, your friend. Put the camera on your friend. That's the one I'm gonna f***ing eat right now. You know, if you guys keen on that, you know, is that what you guys want? You guys want some cannibal chips? You know what I mean? You know, that's what I want. You know, I want to eat somebody. And I'll
Get in the car.
With safety now paramount, Chris and Paul must leave the scene, but they're by no means finished with the Apia Way bar.
That place has only got one busy night, and they cram as much booze down people's throats as humanly possible on that one night to make money. And that's the result. Now, I mean, there's never been a bar in the city that we haven't been able to get into, cameras or no cameras. That is just not good enough. And if we'd got upstairs, God knows what would have happened.
Hey, how are you?
Chris and Paul later call an urgent meeting with the owners. They're told they face having their bar licence revoked if they don't act immediately to control the disorder. Prompt action from the owners saw security improve and better crowd control, and Apia Way returned to being a safe place for patrons. At Greater Wellington Regional Council, Environmental Protection Officer Trudy Richards is responding to an urgent call from an Upper Hutt forestry company. Moonshine Forestry have reported discovering leachate, that's liquid draining or leaching from landfill. Depending on the age of the landfill and what kind of waste is in it, it can contain dangerous chemicals.
It was reported to us this morning that there'd been some earthworks in Moonshine, and we've come out here to have a look at the leachate that the earthworks have disturbed.
Recent heavy rain has caused the leaching, and the worry is it may contain highly toxic hydrocarbons. There's a risk the hydrocarbons could get washed into the stream at the bottom of the site and then into other waterways.
The leachate could possibly be coming from an old landfill. We're not entirely sure of the source at the moment. What is exactly contained in the landfill, we don't know. What's contained in the leachate, we don't know. I'll need to take some samples to try and figure that out and determine what's going on.
Old landfill sites are dotted all over the country. They can look okay on top, but underneath there can be more sinister things going on.
This started when you started doing the tracking?
Yeah, it seemed to get worse with it because we just opened the ground up and we can see it. And it's been happening all along, I don't know, because it actually extends right out over this flat, under these pine trees that have fallen here, it goes right out that way.
This area is known to contain many old landfills. Their exact location, however, is not known, until they are discovered, like this one, by accident.
Where have you found the rubbish, the concrete and the...
There's some just up here, where they've done a bit of bulldozing work here and stopped, and some right on top.
Okay.
So it looks as if that and this area here was being used as a landfill.
Landfill in this area dates back to the 60s and 70s, which is a big worry. There were lots of dangerous chemicals in use then, and there weren't the controls in place around how to dispose of them.
I know it was old General Motors dump of car parts, old car bodies and the like.
Toxic chemicals running into streams and waterways can cause widespread destruction of plants and animals. The good news is that the manager and his team have acted quickly to prevent spread of the leachate.
They're doing the right things, containing it with the fences and the sorbents.
A small pit has been dug to contain the leachate, geomesh installed to catch larger sediment, and pads placed to mop up any hydrocarbon. The pads aren't showing any evidence of hydrocarbons, but Trudy needs to collect samples for a more thorough analysis.
Yuck. So now I'll need to take this to our lab in Seaview, and ELS will analyse it and hopefully tell us what the leachate contains.
Until they know exactly what is leaching out of the landfill, the potential for an environmental crisis is still extremely high.
If you look at the surface, it looks like kind of a spider web, which may be indicative of the kind of contaminants that are in there.
Meanwhile, in Dunedin, Environmental Health Officer Judy Austin is heading out for a routine spot check at a fish and chip shop, Den's Takeaway. With popularity for fast food on the rise, so too is the rate of food poisoning, now estimated to be costing the country a staggering $83 million a year.
Hello, I'm from Environmental Health.
Yeah, oh yeah.
I'm here to do a spot inspection. Okay, it's not a full annual inspection today, it's just a wee look around to make sure everything's okay. So I'm going to start at the back and make my way through.
Spot checks are usually performed on premises that have demonstrated poor food safety in the past. But Den's currently carries a respectable grade B, so Judy starts with high hopes.
I'm just trying to see what we've actually got in here. Food bags. How food bags are stored does matter, because everything gets on them, they can be contaminated. We like to treat food bags exactly like food.
Out back is a rabbit warren of rooms, with disturbing signs that it's not being cleaned too often.
Where you've got cobwebs building up around food.
From grubby containers to exposed food, the signs of neglect are ongoing. In the next storage room, the chaos and disorder are just as bad.
An incredible smell coming out of here. It's particularly unpleasant, and I'd say... It's your own personal food? You know that even though it's your personal food, it still comes under our jurisdiction.
We don't use it out in the shop.
Okay.
It's just ourselves.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
This is all Chinese stuff.
Right. What about all this here?
What's that?
The food along here?
All these are our personal stuff. Yeah.
They're all your personal stuff? And like the tomato sauce? And
yeah, that goes out in the shop. Yeah.
It does go out in the shop.
Not only is the owner mixing personal food stuff with restaurant food, he's also storing items here that shouldn't be anywhere near edible products.
Like we've got tools, there's chemicals, which is clearly marked poison. So if you had some, like you can feel it on the outside, if it had gone in there wet, it could have dropped it. I mean, you just don't store chemicals in food areas.
While poisonous chemicals may be a no-no, cleaning chemicals, on the other hand, are a necessity.
I was talking about food-grade chemicals before, which are stored out here. However, sadly, they're just building up in dust. They're not being used. Like this one looks like it could be 06 or 07. You should be going through several containers of that a year, quite a few, because cleaning's a daily requirement.
Back at Moonshine Forestry, Environmental Protection Officer Trudy Richards has responded to an urgent call about landfill leachate that is potentially laced with deadly chemicals.
Basically, that leachate could contain anything. We won't know until we've got the sample results analysed and back from the lab. But it's an old landfill, there could be anything in there. We don't know. It's from dating back to the 70s, probably 60s. So if that gets into the stream, it's obviously going to be quite detrimental to any aquatic life in there and the habitat.
Although the forestry company is doing all the right things to manage the problem, the risks to the environment are high, so Trudy must still take action.
For now, I think it's fine. I'm going to issue an advisory notice to Graham to say that the leachate needs to be contained and no discharges to the stream down the bottom.
Well, we'll certainly do our best.
Yeah, absolutely, and thank you for calling it in.
The advisory notice is official warning that the leachate must be contained and disposed of appropriately, or heavy fines could follow.
We're very lucky in this instance that they're very, happy to work with us, and they've reported it to us, so if it wasn't for that, we wouldn't even know about it.
Life's always changing, life's always a little challenge, so yeah, just got to deal with it. It just gives us another headache and more costs.
Trudy revisited the site the following week. Despite heavy rainfall, the measures in place had adequately prevented further flow of leachate, and wetland trees were planned to absorb any remaining hydrocarbons. Back at Den's Takeaway in Dunedin with Health Inspector Judy Austin.
To be honest, the inspection is not going that well. Sadly, the food protection as well as the cleaning areas, the points are declining quite rapidly.
But Judy's only just begun. Maintaining hygiene requires regular cleaning of every piece of equipment.
That's fairly new, it hasn't turned into slime. It should still be washed between each and every use. They're a very hard item whereas I do have slime. No, that's slime. Starch, some mud and potato skins, and it's sitting right under the plate itself.
Every single potato is peeled through this machine, and that puts nearly every customer at risk.
But one of the problems is you do end up with some areas that if it's not taken apart and cleaned regularly, that you can get a mixture of, like I say, starch, slime and mud.
And the blatant lack of food safety continues.
Okay, we've got no dating, so there's no stock rotation, so they couldn't actually advise me of and prove how old this food is. Everything needs to be dated for the day it goes in, plus the day it comes out. We've got food stored in open tin cans.
The food safety practices and the cleaning are dangerously below par, which is surprising because they have a weekly cleaning plan.
You can have a cleaning schedule up and you will get points for that. However, if it's not reflected in the premises, it really doesn't. It's like having all your cleaners and everything else. If it's not being used, it's not achieving anything. Well, one of the things with the food premises is things have to continuously be cleaned. It's not It's not an occasional thing.
Judy may have had high hopes for dens initially, but the inspection has proved otherwise, and it's time to deliver the bad news of a downgrade.
It's an open D, but I'm not closing you. All it's doing is showing your customers or the public, which they do have a right to know what your grade is. It's just a current grade. It's not a closure. So you can continue to operate.
But with the D, people normally see the D, they go down the road.
There will be a certain loss. I understand that. But however, we can't change that. You know, you didn't get the points. So it remains.
Yeah, a lot of customers see some of the other takeaway shops much untidy than this.
Yeah. And they get visited.
Yeah.
Okay. I can't discuss other food premises with you. It's like you wouldn't expect me to go and talk to another food premises about you.
I know.
So we'll have to leave that one where it belongs. Okay. He's a D. So we have to display a current grade, and the Ds do actually go on the door because there is a reasonable risk. However, not serious enough as an imminent risk to public health to close him, but very much an open D, which also gives him the opportunity to do the conduct and work his way out of it.
3 days later, Judy revisited Den's takeaways. A concerted effort to clean up and reorganise his stock had the operator regraded to a satisfactory C.